Philippines and good day world. It's Friday, December 29th, 2023 and you're watching Newsline World. And Vhal Divinagracia will bring you the top stories we've gathered from all over the globe. More and more workers of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ are speaking up to defend Pastor ACQ against allegations. The NTC is facing complaint for suspending SMNI, with the network's lawyers saying that the suspension holds a chilling effect in the media industry. China warned the United States against interference in the Taiwan issue. Brazilian researchers are campaigning for the use of artificial intelligence to monitor coral reefs. And Israel expands its ground offensive into central Gaza, warning that the war with Hamas could take months. This and more for tonight's edition of Newsline World. China reiterated its warning to the United States, saying that Washington should refrain from intervening in the Taiwan issue. Christelle Austria reports.
China has urged the United States to cease its interference in Taiwan, and this includes the issue of Washington providing arms. Chen Binhua, the spokesperson of the State Council Taiwan Affairs Office, strongly expressed disagreement with the actions of the U.S. The spokesperson said Taiwan is an integral part of China, and the inclusion of Taiwan-related content in the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2024 by the U.S. violates the One China principle.
台湾是中国的台湾，台湾问题纯属中国内政，不容任何外来干涉。美方执意在2024财年国防授权法案 筛入涉台内容，公然在台湾问题上说三道四，粗暴干涉中国内政，严重违反一个中国原则和中美3个联合公报规定，向台独分裂势力发出了严重错误信号，给台海和平稳定造成严重损害。 我们对此表示强烈不满和坚决反对。
Chen emphasized that the U.S. should stop spreading negative news related to Taiwan and also instructed Washington not to interfere in Taipei's regional elections.
无论民进党当局从美国获得多少武器，都动摇不了我们解决台湾问题、完成国家统一的 坚定意志，也抵挡不了我们粉碎台独图谋、维护国家主权的强大实力。我们敦促美方切实恪守在台湾问题上对中方所做的严肃政治承诺，将不支持台独的表态体现在具体行动上，不得实施 上述法案涉台消极条款，立即停止武装台湾，停止毁台害台行径，停止介入台湾地区选举。
Reporting, this has been Christelle Austria, SMNI News.
Thousands of demonstrators took to the streets of Belgrade to denounce the recent elections and call for the release of activists detained during protests over the weekend. Jean Domingo reports.
Protesters were seen marching from their public electoral commission while blowing whistles and holding placards displaying slogans such as "Whoever steals the elections steals the future" and "Released all arrested." Later, protesters gathered outside a building belonging to the Serbian Public Broadcasting Company, where they listened to speeches delivered by Serbian opposition lawmakers. The rally follows a series of protests that erupted after the announcement of the results of last week's parliamentary elections. On Sunday, thousands marched on City Hall in Belgrade, calling for the annulment comment after recent election results, and the Serbian police used tear gas. They also arrested 38 demonstrators after Belgrade protests turned violent on Christmas Eve. President Alexander Vučić described it as an attempt to seize state institutions by force. He also labeled the protest as an attempted color revolution. Color revolution is a term used to describe movements believed to be funded and organized by Western countries, usually the U.S., aimed at overthrowing world leaders who were opposed to U.S. interests. Protests have been ongoing across the country after the governing Serbian Progressive Party, or SNS, claimed victory in the parliamentary elections on December 18 with nearly 47% of the vote. Opposition parties accused the government of electoral fraud, while Vučić claimed that the election was fair and said that peace, law, and order will prevail. International observers from the Organization for Security and Operation and Cooperation in Europe, the European Union, claimed that the vote was technically well organized, but criticized presidential involvement in the campaign, given Vučić was not up for election, as well as media bias. Reporting this has been Jean Domingo, SMNI News.
Russia warned Japan that the latter's plan to send air defense system to Ukraine will face grave consequences. Ria Saito reports.
Russia called out Japan for its decision of Japanese-made Patriot missiles to Ukraine, noting that such a move could lead to the deterioration of bilateral ties between the two countries. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova warned that such actions will be viewed as hostile towards Russia and will lead to more deaths of innocent lives, a burden that Tokyo will also be held accountable. The Patriot surface-to-air missile system is considered one of the most advanced ground-based air defense systems being used by the U.S. Army. The air defense system can shoot down incoming aircraft or missiles before they hit their intended targets and served as a protective blanket for American troops in the past 30 years. Japan's tense relations with Russia, centered around territorial disputes, are at risk of deteriorating further due to the planned deployment of Patriot missiles to Ukraine. Japan was also one of the U.S. allies that imposed sanctions against Russia. In a recent interview, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that the failures of the U.S. foreign policy resulted in the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. He also blamed the U.S. for provoking global tensions worldwide and warned that no country in the world will be spared from its manipulations in 2024. 以上、日本からスタジオニュースをお伝えしました。SMNI News Japan.
Sweden's high hopes to become the 32nd member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, was revived after Turkey's parliamentary committee gave its approval for the Nordic nation to join the world's largest military alliance. Vhal Divinagracia reports.
Sweden's long-awaited goal to be part of NATO seemed to have found its silver lining after the Turkish Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee approved Sweden's NATO bid. Swedish Foreign Minister Tobias Billström welcomed the committee's decision and emphasized that Sweden is looking forward to realizing its dream of becoming a NATO member. The progress comes after 19 months of delays in which Ankara argued that Stockholm is too friendly to the Kurdish activists regarded as terrorists by Turkey and demanded security-related concessions from the Nordic nation. The move will also pave the way for NATO to further expand the alliance and its surrounding borders near Russia. To recall, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan last week announced that the ratification of Sweden's NATO membership depends on the U.S. Congress approval of Turkey's longtime request to purchase F-16 fighter jets. Moreover, Erdogan urged Canada and other NATO allies to lift arms embargoes imposed on Turkey to hasten the process. After the parliamentary committee gave its consent, the next step is for Parliament to vote on the matter before the Turkish president can sign it into law. Hungary and Turkey remain the only two NATO allies that are yet to ratify Sweden's long-delayed membership, which requires a unanimous decision by all of its member states. This has been Kerbel Trinidad, SMNI News.
5 districts covering 95 villages and 20 communities were declared disaster zones in the Thai province of Pattani. The announcement was made after severe flooding and heavy rains killed 6 people in Thailand and submerged houses in at least 5 provinces. Chatman Gompisay Magason reports.
The worsening floods in Thailand's southern provinces affected nearly 70,000 households. The rising floodwaters were deep enough to submerge roads and railways, forcing schools to close and residents trapped in their homes. The raging floods devastated homes and properties in Narathiwat, Pattani, Yala, Satun, and Songkhla. Of these 5 provinces, Narathiwat was affected the worst by the disaster. Even neighboring Malaysia was not exempted from nature's fury, wherein thousands have been also evacuated for safety. The floods are gradually receding, but most areas remain submerged underwater on Wednesday. Medical personnel are keeping an eye on cases of potential outbreaks of waterborne diseases such as diarrhea, skin diseases, leptospirosis, and athlete foot. The Government Housing Bank announced measures today to help its customers affected by the floods. Thai Prime Minister Sethar Thavisin also visited the flood victims and assured them the floods would not last long since the waters could be drained into the sea. The severe damages caused by the severe floods are starting to show as the waters start to ease. More than 19,000 families need government assistance. รายงานจากราชบุรี นายชัยมงคลพิสมัยโกศล SMNI ประเทศไทย สวัสดีครับ
Israel is expanding its ground offensive in central Gaza as it warns that the war with Hamas will last for months or even years. The Israeli military expanded its group offensive into the Palestinian refugee camps in central Gaza. Meanwhile, heavy fighting continues in the city of Khan Yunis. The Palestinian president described what is happening in Gaza as beyond a war of annihilation. To recall, in an apparent preparation for expanding the said offensive, the Israeli military said that their warplanes bombarded the southern Gaza Strip overnight. Israel's retaliatory offensive into the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip has killed over 20,000 Palestinians and injured more than 55,000 others since October 7, as it claimed to expand ground military operations and warns of a multi-front war. Meanwhile, in Israel, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant recently said that the Jewish state is in a multi-front war as it is attacking from 7 fronts: Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, the West Bank, Iraq, Yemen, and Iran. Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, led the funeral prayers for a high-ranking Iranian general and longtime military advisor who died from what was believed to be an Israeli airstrike. Melchizedek Cadiz files the story.
Iranian officials and their allied militias vowed to avenge the death of General Sayed Rasim Mossavi, commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, who was killed in an Israeli airstrike in Syria earlier this week. Mossavi played an important role in Iran's regional network of allies and proxies known as the Axis of Resistance, and is responsible for coordinating the military alliance between Syria and Iran as the Axis of Resistance. Khamenei called Mossavi a martyr and paid tribute to his tireless struggle, while the chief commander of the Revolutionary Guards Corps vowed to retaliate. Mossavi's body was flown from Syria to Iraq on Wednesday before being laid to rest in Iran. The attacks triggered fears of a widening conflict in the Middle East brought about by the ongoing war between Israel and Gaza. Although not part of the Arab world, Iran has close ties to various Sunni and Shia Muslim groups and governments in the Middle East through its proxies under the so-called Axis of Resistance, which include Hezbollah in Lebanon, Shia militias in Syria, Houthi rebels in Yemen, Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza, and other Iran-backed groups in Iraq. Reporting this has been Melchizedek Cadiz, SMNI News, Kuwait.
Sharjah, one of the 7 Sheikh domes in the United Arab Emirates, banned the use of fireworks display to celebrate this upcoming New Year's Eve. The move is taken as a sign of solidarity towards the Palestinians amid the ongoing exchange of rocket fires with Israel. All New Year's Eve fireworks display and celebrations are not allowed as an expression of solidarity and humanitarian cooperation with the people of Gaza. The Sharjah police warned that anyone caught violating the ban will face legal action. Israel recently warned residents in central Gaza to evacuate from their homes and to the south amid heavy fighting across the region. Meanwhile, public celebrations and fireworks will continue in other emirates of the UAE for the upcoming New Year. Dubai is particularly known for its extravagant display of fireworks, and its performance is one of the most watched around the world during this time of the year. Australia is investigating the death of 2 Australians who are believed to be killed in an Israeli strike in Lebanon. Sasha Haza has a story.
2 Australian men and a Lebanese woman died after the building was hit by an Israeli airstrike. One of the men was announced to be a member of Hezbollah, which is among the main arch enemies of Israel. The 2 men were identified as Ibrahim Bazi and his brother Ali Bazi. Ibrahim's wife Shuruk Hamoud also perished in the airstrike. Authorities found out that Ibrahim traveled from Sydney to Lebanon to visit his wife, who recently acquired an Australian visa. The newly married couple was planning to start a new life in Australia before their death. Hezbollah, an Iranian-backed Islamic militant group that opposes Israel, declared Ali as one of their fighters. Tensions flared between Hezbollah and Israel since the war in Gaza broke out, wherein both sides have exchanged rocket fire. The Australian government advised its citizens not to travel to Lebanon for now due to the unstable security situation. Reporting from Sydney, this has been Sasha Hassa, SMNI News, Australia.
The consecutive surge in sugar prices raised concerns in Egypt, and this is why the government has prolonged the export ban on this particular product. The extended export ban on sugar comes in response to the alarming increase in sugar prices over the past weeks, prompting concerns among residents in Cairo.
We were all surprised by what happened. Just like when other commodity prices increased, we are now trying to reduce our consumption.
I have to buy sugar and eat products because I have a big family, 4 children and my grandchildren. I used to buy a cake for 30 Egyptian pounds. Now it's for 60. Prices have doubled. It should be more affordable for people.
2.7 million tons of sugar annually, exporting 500,000 tons. With the country's demand at 3.5 million tons per year, an additional 2 million tons are required. According to Moy Abdel Salam, an economic researcher in Egypt, apart from geopolitical issues, especially tensions between Russia and Ukraine and the crisis in Gaza, the depreciation of Egypt's local currency is a significant factor contributing to inflation.
The Russia-Ukraine conflict and the crisis in Gaza has led to supply chain disruptions that have caused sugar prices to rise in the Egyptian and international markets. Another issue is climate change, which has affected crops, especially in 2 of the largest exporters, namely India and Thailand, whose yield from several crops has dropped significantly due to droughts.
The government cracked down on traders who stuffed the market to raise prices, and many of them have been arrested. The government also increased the supply of subsidized sugar to the low-income earners, which has balanced the market prices. The state is cultivating more plots of land. It's a good comprehensive plan to cultivate about 5 million fedans, including 350,000 fedans of sugar beets, sugarcane and wheat, as well as other strategic crops like oil, wheat and sugar. If successful, we will not have to import these commodities after 2024-2025 period.
Meanwhile, the Eiffel Tower is currently closed with its staff on a strike over contract negotiations. The staff was protesting about the way the historic tower is being managed. But tourists cannot help but feel disappointed, especially those who came from other places just to see the historic landmark. Jean Domingo has a story.
The Eiffel Tower was closed to visitors on Wednesday due to a strike over contract negotiations. The protest coincides with the 100th anniversary of Gustave Eiffel's death, the creator of the iconic monument. While tourists were visibly disappointed, some rearranged their plans, and the closure sign beneath the tower's iron facade apologized for the inconvenience in multiple languages.
On est après les fêtes, on est en pleine vacances scolaires et on a fait de la route, même nous Français en venant du sud de la France, pour se retrouver, c'est fermé, dommage.
Nous, on est venus de Saint-Nazaire avec mon fils et mes petits-enfants pour faire une journée à Paris et en l'occurrence monter sur la Tour Eiffel pour la faire voir aux enfants. Et on est assez déçus de cette grève, évidemment. Mais je pense que c'est made in France, hein, la grève.
Je connais pas les raisons pourquoi ils font une grève, il n'y a pas d'explication ou quoi que ce soit. Et je trouve ça dommage de ne pas pouvoir visiter. On vient pas tous les jours à Paris et quand on peut enfin venir et visiter, que ce soit une grève.
Je sais pas pourquoi ils ont fait la grève, mais c'est vrai qu'en fin d'année comme ça, pendant les jours de fête, c'est vrai que faire une grève à ce moment-là, c'est compliqué pour les visiteurs de comprendre pourquoi.
J'étais pas au courant et après voilà, je connais pas les raisons, mais en tout cas ça n'empêche qu'on peut la voir de très loin et donc ça nous permet toujours d'en profiter même si on peut pas monter là-haut.
Visitors could still access the glass enclosed esplanade beneath the tower Wednesday, but could not enter the 300-meter landmark itself. The General Confederation of Labor, also known as CGT Union, said it was slated to reopen soon. According to media reports, the workers at the monument, organized by France CGT Union, were protesting the management of the tower and expressed concerns about its long-term prospects. The strike declared ahead of contract negotiations with the city of Paris prompted the closure, affecting the plans of tourists visiting one of the world's most visited sites. Reporting, this has been Jean Domingo, SMNI News.
Researchers in Brazil stumbled in a groundbreaking approach to monitor and protect coral reefs in the country. To find out what it is, Francine Sagarino will give us more details.
Indeed, artificial intelligence is slowly becoming a part of our everyday lives. In Brazil, AI is being used to monitor coral reefs and create more effective ways to protect them. Researchers from the federal universities of Rio Grande do Norte and Paraná are using artificial intelligence to transform marine conservation efforts. Monitoring these precious ecosystems is expensive and time-consuming, but Brazilian researchers believe AI will help conservation efforts be more effective and affordable. Elsewhere, Hawaii and Australia, which houses the Great Barrier Reef, the world's largest coral reef system, are using the same approach. Coral reefs not only provide an important ecosystem for life underwater, but more than 500 million people also depend on them for food, income, and protection. However, coral reefs worldwide are facing severe threats such as mass coral bleaching, which endanger their survival. Rising temperatures and heat waves increase their mortality rate. A study released in November showed that Latin America, especially Brazil, is among the countries that are most interested in AI technologies as compared to other nations worldwide. Reporting, this has been Francine Sagarino, SMNI News.
An increasing number of members of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ are expressing their sentiments to refute allegations against Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy. Sam Gutierrez has the story.
Now is the time nga kami na po ang mostorya.
Kaya po kami, talaga pong hindi na kami mananahimik, kundi magsasalita na po kami.
More and more members of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ are releasing vlogs to debunk allegations against Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy. Many of them are full-time workers who have been part of KOJC for decades. They assert that this is their way of informing the public about the real situation and countering what they claim to be spreading lies against Pastor Apollo. One of them is Kelly Robledo, who has been a full-time worker at KOJC for over 30 years. Undaunted, Robledo revealed that she had known Arlene Caminong Stone for a long time. To recall, Stone is one of the witnesses that Senator Riza Hontiveros presented against Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy, following the resolution she filed calling for an investigation into accusations against Pastor Apollo, including human trafficking, rape, and child abuse. Stone claimed to be part of the Pastoral Care Department within KOJC. But according to Robledo, Stone never became part of the Pastoral Care Department.
Kesyo pastoral daw siya. So, legit ba o bogus? Fake. Ang pinaka number one po na sagot, fake. Bogus po yung lahat ng mga sinasabi niya kasi never po naging pastoral si Arlene Caminong Stone. Klaro po yan. Kasi ako po, kilala ko po ang mga legit na pastoral way back 1990s. Pagpasok ko po sa paglilingkod, kilala ko po lahat yon. Lahat po yon, hindi po sila kadaghanan. Iilan lang po yan na naging pastoral, na tinitrain po ng aming pastor na mahimong future ng mga leaders ng kaharian, na mahimo na maging mga administrators, mga coordinators sa ibang bansa, at lahat na gumagawa para sa gawain ng Ama. Ang katotohanan po mananatili yan. Wala pong sexual service, wala kung ano-ano man na mga ginagawa, hindi po siya pastoral, never siya naging pastoral, kahit kailan po. Ang alam lang pong gawin ni Arlene Caminong sa unang panahon ay makipag-issue, makipagrelasyon sa iba't ibang klaseng lalaki. Nakasama din po namin dito.
Robledo emphasized that she has witnessed many attempts to exploit KOJC and Pastor Apollo's kindness over the years. She stressed that Pastor Apollo is known for his generosity, and those attempting to take advantage of him want to create issues to gain financially.
For 32 years po, kilala ko po si Pastor. Marami-rami na po akong nakita o na nalaman ng mga tao na gusto po talagang perahan ang bansang kaharian. Especially po si Pastor. Na ilang thinking po na dahil napakabait po ni Pastor, hindi lalaban si Pastor. Kaya kailangan nila abusuhin nila, kailangan po nila na gumawa ng issue para makwartahan nila si Pastor at ang Kingdom Nation. Ang hindi lang po nila alam na ayaw lang po ni Pastor na ipahiya, lalong-lalo na pagbabae po ang gumagawa ng mga ganyan.
May Joy Valdez, another full-time worker in the Pastoral Care Department, also released a vlog to air her reaction to the accusations against Pastor Apollo. She is also calling on the Senate to listen to genuine members of the Pastoral Care Department.
To those of you nga nadara sa Senado who are listening and nagatuo dayon then and there sa tarang mga accusations ng mga tawhana without knowing them kung unsa na sila sa una, well, you should hear us also. We are Filipinos who have put you there kung asa mo karon, so you should also hear us. If you want the truth, then you should let us speak. Invite us there sa Senado.
The members of the Pastoral Care Department stressed that more testimonies and sentiments will be released to defend Pastor Apollo and clarify the true happenings and lives of the full-time workers of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. For God and my beloved Philippines, Sam Gutierrez, SMNI News.
Lawyers representing SMNI have filed a complaint with the Court of Appeals seeking the cessation of the NTC's suspension order against the network. Here's my report. On December 21, the National Telecommunications Commission, or NTC, suspended the operations of Sunshine Media Network International on radio and television. This move came after the House of Representatives passed a resolution urging the NTC to suspend the network due to alleged violations. For SMNI, this was unacceptable, especially since the network was not given the opportunity to explain and respond to the NTC's show cause order before the suspension was imposed. It should be noted that immediately after issuing the show cause order, The NTC promptly enforced a suspension order, making it immediately executory. This suggests that the NTC imposed a penalty on the network even before the scheduled hearing on the allegations. Hence, on Thursday morning, SMNI, through its lawyers Attorney Mark Delentino and Attorney Rolex Suplico, approached the Court of Appeals to file a complaint against the NTC. The network filed for certiorari and mandamus, accompanied by an appeal urging the CA to issue a temporary restraining order and/or preliminary injunction to halt the implementation of the suspension order.
Pumunta kami dito para humingi ng hustisya sa pang-aabuso ng ahensya ng gobyerno. Yan po ay National Telecommunications Commission. Sinupil nila ang aming karapatan sa mamahayang pamahayag without giving us our day in court. Imagine mo, hindi kami binigyan. Kung ito ay mangyayari sa SMNI, ito ay maaaring mangyari maski kanino man dito ngayon sa press conference na ito.
We were given 15 days to file our response sa NTC. But ang problema nito, binigyan nga kami ng pagkakataon na mag-respond but may suspension na. So in this case, that is a grave violation ng ating saligang batas, yung tinatawag na grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack or excess of jurisdiction. So wala silang jurisdiction na ginagawa nito, inabuso po nila yung kapangyarihan nila.
According to SMNI's lawyers, the NTC's strict adherence to the House resolution is fundamentally flawed, as it is not within its mandate to blindly follow legislative dictates.
Gumagawa sila ng desisyon ng suspension na walang due process dahil lang sa recommendation ng House of Representatives na wala pa namang due process, di pa tayo pinagbigyan ng pagkakataon. Don't forget, ang NTC may tinatawag silang quasi-judicial function. Ang quasi-judicial function is part of the executive department. Yung pag-influensya ng House of Representatives to the NTC is in violation ng ating saligang batas, lalo na yung principle of separation of power.
Hindi maaring i-adapt ng NTC ang ginawa ng House because ang House po, ibang poder yon, inquiry in aid of legislation. Ang ginawa nila, sinurrender nila, ginib up nila yung bataan at niyakap nila ang Kamara. Mali po yon, maling-mali. Nawalan sila ng independence.
The legal team further argues that if there were any violations in certain SMNI programs, then the entire network should not be adversely affected.
Dalawang programa lang sa SMNI ang nireklamo. Yung po ay gikan sa masa para sa masa at yung laban kasamang bayan. Bakit yung buong network ay pinarusahan? Di ba dapat ang kasalanan ni Pedro kay Pedro lang? Hindi mo isabihin na buong network ay may kasalanan. Pangalawa, tama yun, may mga complaints laban sa amin. Di ba pag nagsampa ka ng complaint, allegation lang yon, wala pang pruebas. Pakinggan mo muna kami.
Attorney Suplico also said that the actions taken by the NTC could potentially have a chilling effect on other journalists in the country.
Anong epekto sa lahat? Sa industriya, sa ibang mga radio station, sa ibang TV stations, sa mga dyaryo. Anong epekto? Chilling effect. Kakabahan ka na. Bawal pala mag-criticize sa office of the speaker. Yun ang bawal pala mag-criticize sa members ng Kamara. Yun ang epekto nitong ginawang pagbubusal sa SMNI.
For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, this is Vhal Divinagracia, SMNI News. 2023 has been an eventful year, from public opinion to two of the superpower rivals, US and China, as well as other views around the world. It has a lot of notable moments, from economics, the emerging multipolarity, the ongoing wars, and calls on climate change. Let's revisit some of this year's highlights in our 2023 recap.
The era of global warming has ended. The era of global boiling has arrived. Our planet is minutes to midnight for the 1.5 degree limit.
The United Nations has officially declared the onset of El Niño. For the first time since 2019, South Korea raised its heat warming level in its 4-level system to its highest.
A state of emergency has been declared in New York City.
Some shelves at a local supermarket have been stripped bare as residents rush to stock supplies.
We have crossed the point of no return when it comes to climate change.
After decades of increasing global integration, there is a growing risk that the world may split into rival economic blocs.
نناضل من أجل عالم متعدد الأقطاب.
SAO members have been ramping up efforts to use their own national currency.
BRICS, the membership will take effect from the 1st of January 2024.
De outro lado, é muito importante para o banco também, não só no dólar.
Perhaps more than anything else is trying to understand where is the relationship between the West and China going.
U.S. President Joe Biden labeled Xi a dictator, claiming that China was humiliated after one of its weather balloons accidentally strayed into American airspace earlier this year.
想改变对方也是不切实际。冲突对抗的后果是谁都不能承受的。
Mr. President, after today, would you still refer to President Xi as a dictator? This is a term that you used earlier.
Well, look, he is. I mean, he's a dictator in the sense that he is a guy who runs a country that is a communist country that is based on a form of government totally different than ours.
He asked me a question. Please say you don't want to be a dictator. I said, no, I won't say that. I want to be a dictator for one day.
Where's Hunter? Well, here's my answer. I am here.
House Republicans are looking into impeaching President Joe Biden.
The scale of U.S. bank closures this year is the largest. The Fed's rate hike greatly increased the vulnerability of the U.S. banking system,
bringing the nation close to a government shutdown.
Now, what exactly is a government shutdown?
This is a political hijacking to get their fiscal and social policies through, even though they're a minority. It's going to be a slow-motion train wreck that's going to hurt the people at the bottom.
We lose our houses, we lose everything, we don't have nothing. And we don't have a help for the government.
Leaders of the emerging economies, called the Global South, spoke on the need for more developed nations to provide adequate resources to common causes and meet their financial commitments.
A promessa de destinar 100 bilhões de dólares anualmente para os países em desenvolvimento permanece apenas isso. Uma longa promessa.
التي قدمها الشعب خطورة أن يؤدي هذا إلى إهدار ثمار التضحيات.
هل هناك كلمات أخرى؟
وفد بلادي جميع الأطراف السودانية.
King Charles III has just been officially crowned as the new King of the United Kingdom.
Newly elected Prime Minister Shreta Tawisin pledged to bring unity and promote policies to solve crisis and push the country to progress.
Será difícil, pero lo vamos a lograr. ¡Viva la libertad, carajo!
Mark Zuckerberg.
Elon Musk.
Twitter is now X.
Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, and admitted that a part of him now regrets his life's work.
This is a remarkable time to be working on artificial intelligence. But as this technology advances, we understand that people are anxious about how it could change the way we live.
The Japanese government has begun releasing the treated radioactive nuclear wastewater from the crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant into the Pacific Ocean.
Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and 3 cabinet ministers ate sashimi of flounder, octopus, and sea bass that was caught from the Fukushima coast following the wastewater release.
We are to rebuild trust and reignite global solidarity. We must be honest and frank in protecting our oceans, which is the lifeblood of our people.
Russia's Wagner boss,
Yevgeny Prigozhin, the founder and chief of Wagner,
one of the most intense and bloodiest of the 13-month conflict between Russia and Ukraine.
Шойгу! Герасимов! Где боеприпасы?
Mr. President, does Zelensky's Bakhmut still in Ukraine's hands? The Russians say they've taken Bakhmut.
I think no. Bakhmut is only in our hearts.
The plane supposedly carrying Yevgeny Prigozhin, chief of the Russian paramilitary group Wagner, crashed in Russia with no survivors.
Что это сделал Путин. Что вот это виноват Путин. Слушайте, слишком грубая, непрофессиональная работа, если уж на то пошло.
The Pentagon said it still is trying to understand the scope and scale of a leak, which exposed various classified documents were uploaded on social media.
I mean, we're still assessing that.
Ukraine's future is in NATO. All allies agree on that.
Nem akarok osztozni a nyugatiak problémájában. Elrontották, itt a baj, meg kell oldaniuk.
The International Criminal Court has issued 2 warrants of arrest in the Ukraine situation. For Vladimir Putin, President of the Russian Federation, for the alleged war crimes of deportation of children from Ukrainian occupied territories into the Russian Federation.
The Interior Ministry of Russia issued an arrest warrant for the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Karim Assad Ahmad Khan.
There would be real consequences in our own relationship were China to provide lethal assistance to Russia in this aggression against Ukraine, or in a systematic way aid in the evasion of sanctions.
Какое вы имеете право кого-то предупреждать?
Многократно, если украинская сторона хочет реально переговорного процесса, то нужно делать это не какими-то театральными жестами, а нужно...
China has released a white paper on the Taiwan question and China's reunification in the new era.
The 2024 Taiwanese presidential election would determine the island's ties with the U.S. and the future of its cross-strait relations with China.
The world needs to know what's happening in the South China Sea.
Sir, sagutin niyo po. Simple lang naman po yung tanong ko, Chairman. Mr. Inaamin po ba natin na hindi natin kaya? Kailangan natin ng US Navy doon, paikot-ikot.
The Department of Foreign Affairs lodged its diplomatic protest with the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs counterpart to a phone call.
和中方一道妥善处理和管控好当前海上局势。
The Philippine government will remain steadfast in defending the sovereignty of the country. This was emphasized by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. amid the recent aggressive actions by the Chinese Navy against Filipino troops in the West Philippine Sea.
Palestinian group Hamas launched an unprecedented attack on Israel on land, air, and sea.
אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה, לא במבצע, לא בסבבים, במלחמה.
Israel continue to oppress our people, so this is not normal country. This is a cancer in the Middle East. I think we should eradicate this country because all the time they create the troubles here.
They are humans, they are our family, and we need them back home now.
The civilians, the innocents, the children, the old people alike. God did not will this for it to happen. So let us just calm down and let hate dissipate. Let us sit down and pray and say, why are we doing this? Why can't we sit down? We are both members of humanity. We are both brothers. Why can't we sit down and just talk things over? Instead of let the bombs, let the bullets, be the one to speak for us. It will destroy us.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the message of the appointed Son of God. Whatever is right, that is where we should always side with. And for a New Year's countdown, we're just 3 days away from welcoming the new year. Advance Happy New Year! And that's all for today's edition. For more updates, you may visit SMNInewschannel.com or follow us on our official social media accounts on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you for watching, and thank you to our beloved Pastor Apollo C. Hibuloy, for the opportunity to be a part of this program. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Vhal Divinagracia, and this is Newsline World.